Brandi, you have the podium. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Brandi Winkleman, 5764 Charlene Drive. Just kidding. Is it not on? Okay. Brandi Winkleman. I'm with the Hope for Santa Rosa County, and I have a presentation this morning. So, just so everyone is aware, with my presentation, I am more than happy to answer questions. Hopefully afterwards. This is all just suggestion and ideas, and our group hopes to work with the county to help the animals of the county. So please ask if you have afterwards. So let's see, I've never worked one of these, so. All right, so our group, what we do as a Hope for Santa Rosa County, AHOPE stands for Animal Health Outreach, Prevention, and Education. We're trying to create more responsible companion animal owners. We're providing low-cost options to our community because we do not have that here. We advocate for TNR, which is trap, neuter, return of the feral cats, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We provide resources for pet retention. We provide food to lower-income families, pet food to lower-income families. We'll be opening a pet food pantry at our facility in Milton soon. Anything that they need, we go to houses. We help them learn how to deal with their new puppy, or they adopted it, and 3 months later they decided it got too big, so we work with them on that. Anything to keep them out of the shelters, basically, we go help them with. And we're just, all in all, trying to lower euthanasia rates at our shelter here. Recently, we applied for the Impact 100 grant. We're going through that right now. That's $100,000. It'll buy us a low-cost spay-neuter mobile unit. We're in the process of that. It'll take a couple months to come back in here on that. We deal with hoarding cases here as well. There's multiple hoarding cases. I don't know if you know about them, but people who have animals, the lowest I've dealt with is 16 animals that weren't altered, all the way up to, I've had 68 cats recently, all in Santa Rosa County. And we have fixed, vaccinated, and helped them retain every single one of them. And if they could not keep them, we've got them all to rescues. We've spent over $9,000 of our own donor money to fix animals in our county. And we've sent almost 600 animals so far over to Bay County to a low-cost clinic to get fixed in the past 10 months that we've been around. Okay, so let's start. All right, so this is my dog, Dodger. He came from Santa Rosa County in the shelter in 2016 at a few weeks old. He was found in Jay under a house. He's a large-headed puppy. Didn't know what breed he was. Had an umbilical hernia. Actually had parvo the week after we brought him home. So in my mind, with what we've got going on in this county, this puppy has survived 3 different things. So he's a survivor. But looking at his picture, if you guys want to take guesses at what breed he is, I welcome it, because I didn't guess. And neither did the shelter. So Santa Rosa County listed him as a German Shepherd dog mix. They said German Shepherd, Rottweiler mix, whatever. So we took him home at a few weeks old with that assumption. We got him DNA tested. He is 50% Labrador Retriever. He was labeled as a dog that is actually against our breed discrimination guidelines. And he has a big head, so of course the bully mix was part of it. So he would have been rescue only or euthanized after a few days of being there. We have a 5-day stray hold. After that 5-day stray hold, they can go to rescue. That's convenient. So that's okay. You guys can hear me. It's still up there, right? Good. Okay. So Yeah, 50% lab. So, and that's a dog that a lot of people, they strive to get. They go and buy them from breeders. We have multiple groups here that, multiple national groups here that have agreed that breed does not equal aggression. We have the AVMA, the National Association of Obedience Instructors, State Farm, NACA, AHA, the CDC, the ABA, and the AVSAB. So all of them agree that breed has nothing to do with aggression. Yet, in our Santa Rosa County Animal Control Handbook, number 3 under adoptions, it lists that we are not to adopt out any Rottweiler, wolf breeds, pit bulls, chows, or the mixes of similarly potentially dangerous dogs. So that's a photo from the handbook right there, and you're stating that breed equals dangerous dog. You're stating 4 different breeds, the mixes thereof equal dangerous dog. And this is absolutely untrue. Once again, my dog Dodger. I also have a 92-pound Shepherd Chow mix at home, and he's the biggest infant you've ever met. So some dogs that bite the most that are listed, along with bulldogs, pit bulls, and shepherds, are your other small breed dogs that people also want. Chihuahuas are the #1 biter. I know they won't kill anybody, but they'll kill your ankles, okay? So I'm a big dog person. I always have been for this reason. I love them all. It's all what we choose. If I went to the shelter to adopt a dog, it would not be a toy breed. The ASPCA and the Humane Society of the United States took these 10 dogs and put them up in front of people to guess what their breeds were. Now, they all have large heads, and they would all be listed as a bully mix. So whenever they DNA tested them and they came back, people were shocked to see that it didn't match at all. Now, our shelter does not DNA test, obviously. It's $100 to DNA test each animal, and that's understood. That's okay. I understand that. The problem is that we're putting labels on dogs that we don't know what they are. Actually, the second dog there, that dog with the big ears, the cute one there, he has 2 of the 4 breeds that we discriminate against in our shelter. But I can guarantee you he would end up in adoptions and be labeled as, I don't know, cute mix of some sort, Papillon, I don't know, something like that. So what we're requesting is that all dogs are temperament tested on intake. Whenever they come in, they should all be on a temperament test or on an adoption track, and on that adoption track, they should be temperament tested to see if they are good with at least cats and other dogs. And I mean, my kids go in and help temperament test dogs at other shelters all the time. If they get bit, I blame them, you know. So they should all be temperament tested, though. It doesn't matter what the breed is. We want all dogs to be visible at intake, whether it's an owner surrender, whether it doesn't matter. As long as it's not a dangerous dog, and as long as it doesn't have a dangerous dog bite something attached to it, they should all be seen at intake. They should all be listed, because once that 5-day stray hold is up, at least you have families out there that have said, I've seen that dog, I want it. So on day 6, it's adopted, it's gone, it's out of there. We want all animals to be available for rescue pool, meaning that even if they're in adoptions or they're a small breed or whatever, it doesn't matter, it's space. So whenever a rescue says, I want to pull this dog, you should let them. I think that they should get to go. But right now, we're not letting them. Right now, if they get vetted by Santa Rosa County Shelter, they have to stay there until adoptions. And if they end up in adoptions, they have to stay there for a very long time before they're allowed to even be considered for pool. I've known it to happen twice, where they've come out of adoptions and gotten to be pooled, but they were there for almost a year before that happened. And all dogs, I want them to be listed as, we want them to be listed as mixed breeds. If you don't know what the DNA is, if they don't come in, the owner surrenders them with a DNA test proving what they are, then they should all be listed as mixed breed. For example, this is Stevie. His breed is All-American Shelter Dog. Okay? Simple, right? He's cute. Want him out of there. It doesn't matter what breed he is. We know what color he is. We're convinced of that. We're even guessing what age he is, just based on his teeth. All right? Or we can do like Duke, where he's mixed breed and pure heart. It doesn't matter. When you put them out there, people are supposed to be looking at these animals to connect with these animals. They're not connecting with the breed unless you put that out there. A lot of people do have a bad history. A lab bit me one time in the face, or, whatever, this bully breed one time attacked my neighbor's kid or something like that. But if you put that animal out in front of them, they're this dog that they're getting to bond with, not based on the breed. I mean, I've heard people say, I can't take this hound dog home because you say it's a Beagle mix. Is it going to grow up and bark all the time in my backyard? We have no idea what it is. So that's all we're asking as far as that goes. My next part is on trap, neuter, return. In 2017, we had 6,011 animals enter our shelter. 4,058 of these animals were euthanized. This is dogs and cats. 3,536 cats and kittens entered, and 3,236 were euthanized. Now, I did the math, and I know you're going to say some of them were ill, or some of them were owner surrender, or whatever. I took those out. Only 7 in the entire 2017 were owner-requested cats that were euthanized because their owner wanted them to be. 138 were contagious disease, cats and kittens. So that leaves 3,091 cats and kittens that were euthanized for no reason at all besides space. So what TNR is where caregivers or rescue groups, they'll go out and they'll trap the cats. The cats are taken to the vet. They get altered, vaccinated against rabies, and ear tipped. A little piece of their ear is taken off the top. It's a universal sign that the cat has been altered and vaccinated against rabies. The cats are returned right where they were found at, and the caregivers are the ones supplying the food, the shelter, and the medicine for the remainder of the cat's life. These are some facts about TNR. Increasing immunity against rabies. Lessens impact on the shelter. Of course, that's obvious because there's not as many coming in. Virtually eliminating complaints. I hear all the time animal control stating that they get complaints about cats being on people's cars or in their yard or something like that. Well, if there's less cats, there's less complaints. There's less competition for cats already in the shelter because we're keeping that growth down. And if we're just, when we trap them, we're fixing them and putting them back out, then they're able to focus on the cats that are already there. Obviously, that leaves more resources for dogs as well, and eliminates euthanasia as population control. We are not using euthanasia as population control. We are using a humane trap, neuter, return. We are fixing them, we are vaccinating them, and we are returning them. That is your population control. When you stop the population from growing, you are controlling the population. A lot of people have said, how are you going to get rabies vaccinations every year? How are you going to keep trapping these cats? Well, there was a Cornell University study done where the initial booster vaccine for rabies was tested again 4 years later, and it was still effective. Feral cats have about a lifespan of 7 years. So honestly, the rabies vaccination is lasting just as long as their lifespan, just on that one booster. Now, most other cities who participate in TNR will go ahead and vaccinate them with a 3-year rabies vaccine. So that means that that vaccine is lasting for the entire lifespan of that cat's life. So you don't have that to worry about. Also, there has never been a report of an ear-tipped cat with rabies. Never. So spaying and neutering, which is what we do. This is the big part of what our group does. We're trying to get a low-cost clinic here. So spaying and neutering is something that we strongly believe in. We are helping out with. We are doing our part. We are not just running our mouths or keyboard warriors. We are actually out there doing it every single day. This stops nuisance behaviors for cats. The male cats aren't going to compete anymore for food, so the fighting and yelling people hear about won't happen. It reduces spraying and roaming. Yes, they still spray sometimes. I totally get that. I understand that. The smell is gone from them. They're not doing it as much. It greatly reduces it. The females are no longer walking around yowling, and it provides the vaccines, so we are creating healthier cats. We do not release sick cats. We are trapping them, we are vaccinating them, and if they are sick, if they have feline leukemia, something they are suffering with, and we happen to test for that because they look ill, then they are humanely euthanized. They are not going out there and they are not getting other cats sick. It is not an issue anymore. So I've heard you guys like numbers a lot. So I did some cost comparisons here. I had said originally, and some cat groups have said to me, that it cost $100 just about from intake to euthanasia. So once you take that cat in, spending 5 days in the shelter, there's people caring for it, we're paying for their time, we're paying for the food, the litter, everything combined. So what I did, because I couldn't find those definitive facts, and because I don't want to get up here in front of you without definitive facts, is I took everything I could account for. So I brought it down to $28, okay? It costs you guys $28 for every cat that you bring in through that door and you retain for that long, and then you euthanize it at the end of its stay. For us to fix them, it's $25 to fix them, vaccinate them against rabies, and then ear tip them. So you guys think that you're being cost effective because you think, what, it's not going back out there, right? It's done, it's dead. So in 2017, we've already taken 57 cats to get fixed. 2018, we've taken 371 cats. Cost us $25 each. This is, I say us, it costs the caretakers, the caregivers, the owners, $25 each. So they've spent a little over $10,000 to get these cats fixed. So these cats are never going to reproduce again. So we prevented 6,420 births in just 1 year. So our $10,000 next year would be your $180,000, because your cats are still out there. The cats that you left behind are still out there reproducing, and the cats that have taken their place. There's something called the vacuum effect. What Santa Rosa County Shelter does right now is they have the catch and kill method, which is they pick them up from wherever they're at, they take them to the shelter, they put them down. Well, then these new cats are moving into the area that are not fixed, that are not vaccinated, and they're moving in and they're reproducing. And they're also spreading whatever diseases they could possibly have because we haven't been able to get a hold of them yet. What we are advocating for is the trap, neuter, return method, to where we are trapping them, fixing them, and putting them back in their territory. So if we allow you guys to keep doing what you're doing, there's your $180,000 a year or more. You allow us to do it, we're taking care of it. Such as just this past Monday, we got a grant for $25,000. Our group applied for their first grant back in February. We got the Florida Animal Friends grant as well. You guys got it for $20,000 to fix bully breeds and mixes. We got $25,000 just for community cats. Now, it's not allowed in Santa Rosa County, so guess where that $25,000 is going to be used at? The city of Milton. The city of Milton has allowed TNR since January 9th of this year. And because we don't have a low-cost clinic, that money's going to Bay County. So $25,000 is going all the way to Bay County to a vet that works with us that has a low-cost clinic, and we're also fixing 1,000 cats inside the city limits of Milton. These are our euthanasia percentages. As you can tell that they've gone up and down, but they haven't varied very much over the past 7 years. And yes, this is taking into account owner surrender, requested euthanasias, and any sort of contagious diseases. The effects on wildlife, because of course we hear this all the time as well. Less cats equals less problems. That's obvious, right? We're stopping them from procreating. We are trying to fix the fact that there are so many cats. We all want less feral cats. This is a solution. We are all animal lovers, so, you know, we love birds too. Cats who have a food source are less likely to hunt, and we also have a protocol in place. So it's not like people can just throw food on the ground and leave because they're worried about getting cited for it. No, we tell them they can put out food once a day for 30 minutes or twice a day for 20 minutes each time. So we have that in place. It's working fantastic inside the city limits. The largest contributors to songbird deaths, because we hear that all the time as well, is pollution and habitat destruction. That's proven time and time again. And if they want to throw out the million birds, whatever, that's not in Santa Rosa County. We're trying to help Santa Rosa County. All right, so here is a couple of charts that show where TNR has been working at. The green part, just leave the pen there, just leave that there too. All right, so the green part is the live release, and the orange is euthanasia. As you can tell, whenever they started TNR, this was 2014 when Greenville County started TNR, down to 2017, their live release rate has kind of stayed the same. Their euthanasia rate has gone down dramatically, but what's fantastic is that you see there is less intake. Overall, less intake. That chart is getting smaller. That's what our goal is. Our goal isn't to keep putting a Band-Aid over it. Our goal is to lessen intake. As you can see, it also happened here in Nashville, Tennessee. And here, this is Waco, Texas. Their intake went from 3,445 cats down to 350. This is Jacksonville. Jacksonville went from an intake of 12,093 down to 2,655. That live release rate is beautiful there. It's almost all green. Guess which county this is? This is 7 years worth of data. 7 years we've been watching Santa Rosa County not make any changes. Right there. Our live release rate was the highest in 2016 for cats. Out of the entire 12-month period, 372 cats left alive. Now, I'm not a genius with math, but if you have 10 cats and you have euthanized 90% of them, how many does that leave you? 1, right? So if you're euthanizing 90% of one cat for the past 7 years, that's insane. That's not possible, right? Because it's not working. We are offering a solution here. Moving on to our shelter needs. Those are things, the things that I've just gone over, are things that we are trying to help the shelter with, that we are suggesting. What the shelter needs right now is an improved volunteer program, a barn cat program, a budget increase, a foster program, and a vet. You guys all knew this though, right? Yeah, okay. So the volunteer program, the great thing about that is you are relieving the staff of the time that it needs to help each and every animal. They're going through and busting their butts every day. My best friend works at the shelter, and God, she is busting her butt every single day that she is there. She is an amazing worker. She is a huge animal advocate and lover, but man, some days she hates her job. She doesn't get to do this stuff. This helps the animals become socialized, and it's completely free to you guys. It's free to have volunteers. I know you have a program right now, or so you say. So some changes that need to be made. The volunteer program shouldn't require social security numbers. You are scaring away volunteers that have been there for years. I know one in particular, and she's phenomenal. She's not going to give up her social security number. If they don't trust her by now, something's wrong with that. I worked side by side at that shelter when I volunteered there for 2 years in a row with a guy that I didn't even know was in there because the judge ordered him to be, because he tied a dog's leg to a tree for so long that it had to be amputated. And that was his court sentence. But you guys aren't letting people come in and love on these animals. because you want their social security number? You knew this guy, the judge knew this guy, had hurt an animal, and he was allowed to work in there side by side with me. And I didn't know. I didn't know for the longest time when I found out. I don't even want to tell you my feelings. So these people should have the ability to interact and socialize with these animals, all of the animals. If they are temperament tested on an intake, which a volunteer can help you do with their time that they're offering, they should be able to interact with every animal there. They're not. They're only allowed to interact with the 20 kennels that are in adoptions. It doesn't matter if there's only 7 dogs up there for adoptions. That's the only ones that they can touch and play with and interact with. So these ones that are in the back that haven't been temperament tested or discriminated against because they're a different breed, they're not getting the love and attention they need to be available for adoption and have that personality ready to be adopted whenever they get there. They're not even allowed to get treats. They cannot get treats through the bars. And obviously a volunteer coordinator would help out all of this. So with the budget increase, you guys could do shelter renovations, increase the space, better central air, work with the cruelty cases a little bit better. I heard recently from an animal control officer about how many cruelty cases that they're working, and they don't even have a place for the large animals anymore, the horses that they're working with. You know, that's sad whenever we have to outsource and go use somebody else's farm or ranch whenever we're trying to work a case. Increase of staffing, obviously, and extended hours. People work. They go to work until 5 o'clock every day. So when you're only open till 4 o'clock, you're not really leaving any opportunity for people to come after work and adopt animals or pick up their animals that they lost. So they're panicking all week long. They can't get in there because you're only open from 8 to 4. And it is a very strict 8 to 4. I will tell you that. Recently had somebody walk in there at 4:15 just looking at cats is all she wanted to do. Tried to ask a question, the front desk shut her down. We don't do adoptions after 4. She adopted a cat from a rescue. Thank goodness. 2018 budget that was requested by the shelter was almost $1 million. Adopted was 40,000 less. That could have been at least 2 kennel techs because I know what you pay them. So that would have been great. You guys need more staff. 180 animals at minimum. 2 kennel techs is not enough. You have 2 to 3 working per day that are running all those kennels, having to feed them, clean all of their cages up, plus go to the front every time somebody wants to adopt an animal. That's a lot. Volunteers would help that. We've requested for Team Shelter USA to come here and do an evaluation. They'll evaluate all these things that we've discussed as well. They'll put together a fantastic packet. They did it for Escambia County. It's a wonderful packet. If any of you want a copy of that, I can email it out. That's not a problem. They'll interview with the staff there, the BOCC chair, and the director of animal control, and talk to you about what your needs are, how to get there, how to reallocate those funds, and it's free. She has called me and she has offered to come here, a vet with Team Shelter USA, because she has heard about our numbers. And it's a $30,000 assessment that she is offering to come here and do for free. Now, I offered this about 2 months ago to our director of animal control. It's kind of brushed off. Slowly, it's coming around. Our volunteers got together and we called all 67 counties in the state of Florida. Now, as you can see, we haven't heard back from, I think it's like 17 of them so far. 3 of them are privately owned, so they don't count as municipalities. I thought whenever we were calling around, I honestly thought I was going to be like, well, you know, we're probably like the 10th worst community, you know, the 10th worst county. I was so surprised. We have the highest kill rate in the entire state of Florida. Right here, we have a 67% kill rate. You guys hear about Miami-Dade all the time, right? You're like, oh, Miami-Dade, the bulldogs are getting killed. You know, they have a 13% kill rate. 13%. And if any of you want to see any of those stats, I have every single one of them. And I plan to call them every single year and get their stats and keep up with where we stand. This was 2017. Just a colorful chart to show how many were euthanized versus returned to owner, transferred to rescues, or adopted out. This is June. This is July. The outcome, if we can all work together and we can all help each other with these plans that we're setting forth, is, reducing euthanasia within the next 12 months, improving the conditions for the shelter animals. Grants will become so available for you. You guys missed out on $5,000 on that Florida Animal Friends grant. It's a $25,000 grant. They shorted you $5,000 because they're trying to believe. They really are. So we're working with you. Whenever we first applied for that Florida Animal Friends grant, me and Tara, we got together and I said, "What are you applying for?" And she said, "I'm applying for the dogs, I think." And I said, "Good, because I'm going to apply for the cats." And out of 25 grants in the entire state of Florida, our county, Tara and I, got 2 of them. $45,000 to fix the animals of Santa Rosa County, if you'll allow us. And of course, overall less intake. That's what we're working towards, is less intake. So just to sum it up, what we're requesting is the lift of breed discrimination, which seems like an easy fix. The implementation of community cat ordinance. It would just be an amendment to a couple of ordinances, so they're allowed to be there. And of course, protocols would be set in place just like we did inside city limits of Milton. A budget increase for the shelter, allowing Team Shelter USA to come visit us and do an evaluation, and improved volunteer program. And a hope for Santa Rosa County and all of your community are all wanting to help. All we need is the okay to go ahead and do it. That's all we want. I appreciate you guys listening to me today.
Brandi.
Thank you.
Brandi, thank you very much for coming today. I'm glad we can get you here. Helaine Gottschalk's been a customer of mine at my auto shop for many, many years, and she started me down this trail and then kind of got involved with you. One thing you didn't talk about is the funnel effect, the intake being more than the outtake.
Right.
And wanting to invert that. I thought the other day when we met with the county administrator, that was a good point.
Right. So
things like increasing the cost for somebody to just give up their animal. I like that type of idea, because if you're, as an adult, you buy an animal or take an animal on adoption or take one from a friend, whatever happens to be the case, and decide after a few weeks, a few months, or a few years you just don't want it anymore. Or perhaps it's not that, perhaps it's you're moving and can't take it. I mean, there's all kind of justifiable reasons, but to give up that animal should be more than, I believe, the cost we're charging now. So that's something I'd like for our staff to look at.
Or at least the shelter mitigation program, to where we are making it more difficult for them to.
Could you put your last slide back up, or somebody put?
I have no idea how to do that.
Well,
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Okay.
I like what you pointed out about Team Shelter. I'm going to put my comments out to the board and then let the rest of the board chime in on moving forward. I don't see any harm there moving forward with that. If we're going to get a $30,000 evaluation, then, by all means. It's just like the grant money to me. If, we get grant money, we get, a evaluation done at no charge. It's no foul, no harm, no foul. It makes perfect sense, lessening the feral cats and animals. So I'd like to take some time before we give you a positive or negative answer on that, and let's see what the city of Milton's doing, see how that's happening. I did have a question though, since that's been in place since January. You said we had to go the whole way down to Bay County for a clinic.
Correct.
Has there not been a veterinarian in the local area due to the, with Milton already having this in place that's willing to do that? Have we reached out to any?
We've reached out to all the vets, and we've actually submitted multiple prices and what they offer to the Impact 100 grant as well, as part of the research study. The lowest price that we could find was $110 for a feral cat to come in and get altered. And that's just far too much whenever I can send them to Bay County on volunteer hours, volunteer time, and drive them there for $25 a piece. It's just, people aren't, they're just not gonna do it. So it's not like, they're like, oh, it's $110 here, and I'll just save up for that. They're just not gonna do it. They're gonna keep feeding them, and they're gonna keep
All right,
procreating.
so let's, I think maybe with the discussion we've had today and raising awareness in the county, perhaps, you know, a lot of people are going to hear this. We're reaching out through different means. Perhaps, you know, a veterinarian or a clinic will hear this and feel like they can come on board with us. The other things, let me think, show here. Hours that were open, to me that makes sense. It's kind of like me trying to go to the bank, cash my paycheck at lunchtime, and all the tellers are at lunch.
Right.
So I'd like staff, my thoughts are I'd like staff to look at maybe adjusting that time by setting the schedules different, you know, not really adding hours or overtime to our cost,
Right.
but maybe adjusting schedules somewhat there. I know for a fact, my son worked there for about 6 months, and these folks don't go to work every day anticipating the job they have to do, because it's certainly got to be gut-wrenching. I don't know too many people that don't love animals of one or the other. There's even a report here in the paper my wife read to me about a girl that claims that there's a full-grown alligator that loves her because she feeds it every day. I kind of think if she didn't have any food, she'd become food, but, you know, but I mean, everybody loves animals.
Right.
That's why we have zoos in this country. I mean, you know, animals are something that God's put on this earth for, you know, for our companionship. So I want to see us work with you. Volunteers, anytime a county, a state, or any kind of government entity turns down volunteers, that's just silly. And so if we can stand up a good volunteer program to work collectively with our animal control, I don't see negativity in that. So my thoughts going out to the board are what I expressed just now. The only thing I would be a little reluctant on immediately was this capture and release, you know, when you neuter them. Spay them and release them immediately. I'd like to follow up with Milton, see how that's working, get some more statistics on that. We discussed this a little prior to the meeting, and Elena indicated to me in California and several other locations how well this has worked, because if they're not breeding, eventually that population just passes away and we reduce it. You know, everything you've said makes perfect sense. I just think as a board of commissioners, we owe it to the rest of the community to take a good hard look at this, and not to make an excuse, but unfortunately, until a community group like yourself brings something this to the board, you know, maybe we missed the target 6 months ago, or maybe we missed it a year ago, and maybe we should have done things better. But in a lot of cases, there's a lot that goes on in the county, and the mechanisms and the operations day to day in the county, emergency events, other things that we need. So I appreciate a community group coming to us and saying, hey, you know, not only are we here to complain, but we're here with some solutions, some financial aid, some volunteer aid, some ways we could do business a little differently, and like you said, work together. So I appreciate, again, you coming today. So.
And did you want to address the breed discrimination while you were?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for. I have a problem with that myself. I mean, if we have dogs that are put in a kennel and they're not trying to rip the wire off the doors to get to somebody, where you can obviously tell they're not an aggressive animal. I don't care if that's a Chihuahua to a Great Dane. If they're not aggressive, I don't want to put our staff in a position where they have to euthanize that animal.
Absolutely.
Or a cat. I mean, if it's a little kitten to a big old Tom, if they're snarling and trying to rip this, you know, cage down, then obviously, you know, we don't want that back out on us, you know, back out in the public. And but if it's not that obvious, if a judge has an order that an animal be put down because it's attacked somebody, if we don't have a good protocol to assess that, we need to develop that protocol.
Right.
And not as much as going to the DNA testing, but some sort of protocol that wouldn't cost quite that much to decide, okay, that German Shepherd or that Doberman or even that Pit Bull is it's a puppy, not, you know, it wants to be petted. It don't want to, you know, it don't want to bite your arm off. So, you know, and that's something I think it's going to take a little time for staff to work with Dale's department and come up with something that we can train our people on and get a good attitude on, okay, where do we go with this? And certainly, again, volunteers can help on that.
Right.
The only thing I did have a problem with too, I'm glad I thought of it, Social Security numbers. If we can't get Social Security numbers, we have to develop a way to confidently feel like we can identify each person, not only to protect, well, mainly it's to protect the other volunteers and the other people in the shelter. I mean, just like you said, I would rather not have seen the judge order that guy go out there and work with animals and work around other people if he was that cruel to an animal. I somewhat see the judge's opinion, okay, you know, I'm going to force you to be around animals and force you to be nice to people, but that to me doesn't make as much sense as giving that person another punishment. So if we can't get Social Security numbers, or if that's so much of a impasse, we got to figure out some way to protect each individual, just like we do on our community parks. We don't want predators on our parks around our children. I don't want somebody working next to you or another volunteer that has a shadowy past.
Well, maybe you guys could talk to Escambia County, because they don't require it of their volunteers, and they have 40 volunteers.
There you go.
So,
And
I mean, their program's working. They have great volunteers that show up daily. They have at least 1 up to 10 volunteers that work a day. So maybe that's something John Robinson can work with you guys
Absolutely.
on.
And that's what it's all about. These type programs are about working together, working with our community, working with other communities, and not reinventing the wheel, saying, hey, it's working here, why can't we do it in Santa Rosa?
Right,
Right.
absolutely.
All right, I'll open it to other commissioners. Okay. I guess we did a good job.
Am I good? Okay,
All right,
thank you.
staff, what direction do you need, Dan?
Sir, I've already committed in separate meetings with Hope for Santa Rosa to look at these issues, to look at the animal control policy. I'm working with Dale and Brad on that. I agreed that the team shelter visit is a worthwhile endeavor to have that outside group come and take a look. Are we going to be able to implement everything they recommend? I doubt it.
Is your mic on?
It is on, sorry. We're not going to be able to implement everything that this team shelter recommends, but I think that having an outside agency come take a look and provide us some recommendations is worth doing. $40,000 difference in the animal control shelter budget is one person. I just wanted to point that out. It's not 2 people, because a person costs the county about $40,000 no matter what their salary is, even at the starting pay, because of the benefit program and other things that we provide. We have, I think, funded fully the request for animal control services this year. I'll check that. The volunteer program you mentioned, I think it's important, the safety of our employees and the safety of the volunteers. And we have to have a means to do a background check. If there's a way to do that, I'll check with Escambia County, and I'll check with our HR department. We normally require a Social Security number to do that background check. And one of the reasons we ended the volunteer program, or scaled it way back, is because there was an altercation between a volunteer and a staff member. So that involved a report to the sheriff's department. So I think it's imperative that we have a safe working environment for our volunteers and for our employees. I think we're looking at things like the barn cap program that was briefly mentioned. But on the trap neuter release, I want to see more measures and metrics specific to Milton and what difference has it made there. And obviously, part of that, we should see some difference in the numbers in our shelter, because our shelter provides the services for the city of Milton. So I would like to see hard data and facts on the benefits and outcomes there before we would go further and consider that. But I think a lot of these things have been discussed previously. I think it's important that this I Hope for Santa Rosa provided this information to you all, but I think we're working on most of these things already.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, and Dan, was anything I suggested contrary to what you've just stated? I can't think, I was trying to listen to you, I
No,
think
sir.
we're on the same page.
No.
Okay, all right, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for coming today. Some of the data you provided was definitely eye-opening to me. You know, the numbers are the numbers, and I'm just very appreciative of the compassion that you have in bringing this forward, and that, as our chairman said, you're bringing forward recommendations and solutions. You're not just standing back and saying this is wrong. We have a lot of people helping us with problem identification on a whole range of issues, especially this time of year. So it's great to have someone, a group that, this took a lot of time. This obviously isn't something you just threw together before the meeting. And, you know, when I look at a like-sized county like a Charlotte County, and they're at 15%, and I see us, we are compassionate neighbors. We're a compassionate community. And so, to me, when I look at this number that you just provided, that we are performing the worst in the state, there's a clear disconnect there between the heart of this community and the people that live here and what I see in these numbers. And that includes the compassionate people that we have at Animal Services that are doing what I think is probably the toughest job maybe in the entire county on a day in and day out basis. Very grateful for what Dale does and his team there. But I think we should take more of a formal step today, gentlemen, just in putting some structure behind this to where folks know what the next step in the process is going to be and what the timeline is as you continue your review, Dan. And that's what I would request, is that we're directing staff to maybe begin a formal ordinance review. I know that that's kind of a de facto what we said we're going to do, but I think it would be important to let folks know that we're taking that next step, and that maybe that would involve initially a stakeholder group meeting where we have folks come in and we try to find some joint recommendations that we can then bring to our county attorney and back to the board, and let's move forward with a formal ordinance review of where we are and how we're taking care of and how we're looking at responsible pet ownership and the different recommendations. I don't know enough about it to know if we can implement all of the things that you've recommended. I haven't heard from staff today. I think we need to have a conversation sooner rather than later. Put together a timeline to where we know where we are from this conversation today to the improvements that we all know we need. And I don't know if that needs to be a formal vote of the board, Mr. Chair, but if it's something that, a motion I would be willing to put forward is that we direct staff to begin a formal ordinance review of our policies related to animal services.
I appreciate that, but I feel like with what we heard from the county administrator and the direction he's going, and he's heard the feeling from at least two of us now, and I'd like to give Dan, what'd you say, Dan, 30 days, 45 days to work through some of this, bring something back to the board?
Yes, sir. I can bring an update back to the board. The only thing that involves an ordinance review in this case is the trap, neuter, and release.
Yeah.
All the other action items and points that Brandi brought up and that we have discussed previously are in sort of the execution under that ordinance, and I think I can take those actions without any specific board action. I'll provide a timeline. I think the first thing will be scheduling the team shelter visit. And providing a review of the animal control handbook policies. That's something I can undertake with Dale, and we'll bring changes to that back to the board.
I think, personally, I'd like to go through that and then see some continued results from City of Milton. And, and at least Brandi, you and your group know today's the starting point. We're moving forward. There's enough indication from this board to staff that we want to move forward. We want to see some things. So,
Mr. Chairman,
deal with that, Commissioner.
I think we're kind of asking for the same things here. I just would love to know that we're going to receive some type of timeline to where we could know that when a certain date has come to us that we're expecting some type of action or discussion. A lot of times, we'll have conversation at the board level, but there might not be You know, people be asking, well, what's the next step? What are the next thing you're doing? I don't know what the next step is outside of maybe looking at some of these recommendations. I just, if we're going to come back, or if Dan's going to come back and let us know what that timeline is, I just want to make sure that everybody's in the loop on that.
Brandi, could you come back to the podium, please?
So to that point, I'll come back by the end of September with a timeline and an action plan on some of these things. Some of them we can have scheduled in that amount of time. Some of them we will have, a plan going forward and steps to implement beyond that.
Thank you.
Brandi, my question to you was, do you know on average how long it takes for the team to schedule and do their evaluation? I mean, are we looking at a 6-month waiting period to get in a queue, or?
Yeah, Team Shelter might take about 6 months to get out here, depending on what their schedule is. So I'll get them out here as soon as possible. The other things mentioned, I mean, unless you really want to wait and hear it from them, but I mean, adjusting the hours is easy, is on you guys at the shelter.
That's why I wanted to ask. I don't want to wait 6 months for that, so
Right.
I think, and my comment a moment ago was to wait till they did their evaluation and move forward, but if it's going to be 6 months,
Yeah, it might be. I wouldn't.
think
Yeah.
I'd like to allow staff, county administrator and assistant administrator to work out what they feel like they can initiate more rapidly, and then some decisions would have to be based on their conclusions, so.
Right. Well, maybe Team Shelter can come in here after some of these things
Sure.
have been changed, and she won't have as much to point out at that point in time. So
I think we're all on the
Okay.
same page on this. I think Dan knows the way board wants to move forward. And after Commissioner Williamson, after County Administrator's comment about the only thing would be the capture, neuter, and release or spade. I can't get that
and
straight.
I'll TNR. I'll get
TNR,
that that to you. That won't be a problem.
Would be
at
an
all.
ordinance, then
Yeah, a structured plan for improvement. That's all I'm looking for, that we can come back to where we all know what direction we're heading in.
good. All right, everybody. And again, did anybody else from the group want to make a comment or want to speak? Elena? Or anybody from the public want to make a comment? If you will, please get ready, and we will need your name, address, and we will need to fill out a speaker form.
Excuse me, I did fill out a form. I'm Helaine Gottschalk. I live in Pace. I appreciate all of you listening so diligently to Brandi. She brought you current statistics and what's going on now. I just want to show you a packet. I'm from California, and my veterinarian there, and I've lived here for 23 years, my veterinarian there in 2004 started his own spay-neuter. It really wasn't a clinic. He did it in his own office. He asked veterinarians in his community, and he is very involved in the community, to join with him to do these low-cost spay-neuters. He had no volunteers. He spent $25,000 the first year of his own money to bring in more surgical packs, more staff, more everything to spay and neuter community cats. He had a staff, or not a staff, but he had a group of volunteer women who went out and did all of this trapping. This was 2004. So we're not talking about something that is brand new. I mean, Brandi didn't invent this. None of us in this organization invented this. It's been done around the country successfully. Bob even mentioned that I said to him before the meeting that there were, I believe, close to 9,000 animals in the Simi Valley shelter in California euthanized in 1998. That number is down to the teens today, and that's because of TNR and low-cost spay-neuter. He started with the feral cats, then it was any cats, then it was dogs. But the idea is you don't have to have your shelter filled with animals spending hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. This can all be fixed, and I'm glad you're open to listening to what Brandi had to present, and I appreciate that. I've talked to Bob for a long time. But this information right here is 2004. So there's plenty of information to prove to you that this is effective and it works. Thank you for listening, and thank you for taking the steps in the right direction. I know I'm not a very patient person. I want things done yesterday. But the fact that you're listening, you're willing to move forward because you realize that we are a county that's at the bottom of the barrel, and we can be out of that barrel and up at the top if we move in the direction that Brandi is directing you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Dale, while you're here today, I want to take a moment and thank you and your department for everything you guys do. I know it's a tough job, and certainly don't take you for granted out there, so. Okay, if y'all can kind of wrap it up now, because we got a public hearing we're running late for, so.
This will be very short. Hello, my name is Rebecca Wilhelmi. I have lived in Navarre for a year. I met Brandi and got involved with the Hope for Santa Rosa County a couple months after I was here. I'm a certified dog trainer. I have 10 years experience, and I just wanted to throw one fact out to you, and that is that 80% of dogs are put down, killed, because of behavior problems. That's not a statistics in Santa Rosa County. That is in the training world. But that does not mean that 80% of dogs have problems, behavior problems, or that are dangerous. It means that simple training, teaching people and dogs some basic manners will decrease the amount of dogs put in shelters. That's a whole nother area, okay? But if the shelter could implement a foster program for dogs and cats, these animals would be in loving homes, getting basic training in manners, getting socialized, and being adopted, rather than all the money being spent on the euthanasia. I worked at a rural northern shelter in Illinois. The population was 10,000 people. We had a volunteer program, a foster program, one trainer, and a foster coordinator. They euthanized 10 to 20 animals per month. Not hundreds, not 67% like Brandi mentioned, not 82% just in July. They euthanized 10 to 20 animals a month, and only due to illness, age, or bite history. So I'm just saying that there is another model, there's another way that this could actually, all the things that Brandi's talked about, those things are going to be helpful for the community. They're going to be helpful for, you know, dogs not running around being crazy, and, you know, all the cats and everything. So if it would be possible to have a foster coordinator, I don't have all the numbers like Brandi did, but it's going to help eliminate, you know, thousands and thousands of animals being euthanized.
Thank you for coming today. Appreciate
Thank you, everyone, for listening to us today.
it. All right. Thank you very much. We'll take just a real short break if anybody wants to leave, or go on, get it done? Get it done? All right. All right, we're going to go ahead. We got a public hearing we're running a little bit late for. No, ma'am. I got to get to the public hearing. I didn't see anybody else get up, so.
I have my name.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, we have, okay. How many more do we have, ma'am? How many, do we have? Okay, all right, okay, anybody else? Well,
Good morning, Carol T. Bay, 4060 Indigo Drive. I'm here to talk for the wildlife, and it was a wonderful presentation, but my understanding is that they're releasing 1,000 cats into Milton, and if they didn't euthanize the cats in the shelter, that would be $3,000, 3,000 cats a year into our community. I wouldn't want them in my neighborhood. But I'm here to talk for the wildlife. Birds do have challenges such as habitat loss and pollution, but according to Florida Fish and Wildlife, domestic cats are not a part of Florida's natural ecosystem. A single individual free-ranging cat may kill 100 or more birds and mammals per year. A loss of birds and mammals and reptiles is sad, but they're also part of our food chain, which cats disrupt. So an owl that may be hunting for a snake, a mouse, or a bird, to feed her young has to compete with cats. She stated cats that have food are less likely to hunt. Cats hunt. To be good at something, you have to practice, so cats practice every day. A few additional thoughts is that I wouldn't want the cats in my neighborhood. Cat feeding stations attract raccoons, possums, coyotes, maybe bears. Florida's Department of Health warns that feral cats carry parasites such as roundworms, hookworms, plague, and diseases such as toxoplasmosis, Lyme, and rabies, all transmissible to humans. It is unlawful to release within Florida any species of animal not indigenous to Florida. Think of your lionfish or your snakes in the Everglades. You must obtain a permit from Florida Fish in order to release a non-native animal. Now, they don't come to counties and police cats and dogs, but they do not support TNR. I would like to see you create an ordinance which prohibits the abandonment and feeding of stray cats, and I appreciate your time.
Carol, if I might, before you leave, from what I understand, there's not going to be feeding stations. The people that, and these won't be cats that will be relocated. These are cats that are already in your community, going to get captured, spayed or neutered, and released in the same area. But the person takes a responsibility to, and I believe Brandi said that it's so many minutes a day that the food can be left out. So it's not going to be like a 24-hour buffet.
I think a lot of it will be organized, but there's a lot of
Right.
unorganized. We
And
have a
that's-
small community network that people belong to let people know what's going on in the community. And we started talking about TNR the other day, and I was amazed at the number of people that said they were feeding stray cats. And one woman goes around to 3 colonies a day and leaves food. There are some organized programs, but there are a lot of people that just feed the cat at work or behind the restaurant.
And that's
that
the reason this
it doesn't
board
happen with.
is not moving forward on that. We're going to get some more
And I
statistics
appreciate
on
that.
So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. We're going to take one more, and then I got to go on to, okay, I got 2 more, and then we got to move on.
Hi, gentlemen. Debbie Bankes, 4112 Sheridan Drive in Pace. Thanks for allowing the presentation, Brandi. You did an awesome job. There's one thing that I want to point out on the TNR. And Brandi and I and the team will definitely be giving you gentlemen some more information on TNR. As the lady here, and I understand exactly what you're saying because I rehab squirrels, so you know, we have a problem with cats, with community cats, because people don't spay and neuter them. The folks that are feeding the cats, the wild cats that are out there, those folks refuse to trap those cats and take them to the shelter. They just won't do it. If I had a feral come into my front porch, I am not going to put that cat in a trap and take it to the shelter, because I know that it's going to get put down. The colonies that she's talking about, these, what we want to do is spay and neuter these community cats that your neighbors are feeding in their neighborhood. The cats typically, and we can certainly do a field trip sometime, some of the areas that Brandi and I go to, some of the colonies, they stay usually within the caretaker's yard. Sometimes they might go to the neighbor's yard. But think about this. We want to work with those caretakers that can't afford $125 to spay and neuter their cats, or they keep having kittens. We work with those folks. We spay and neuter them. The caretaker continues to feed them. They live their life. Problem solved. I can't imagine any one of you gentlemen, if a community cat came up to your front porch and it was petable, it wasn't, a true feral. True feral means it was born in the wild. A lot of these cats are stray cats. Cats that got lost, cats that got dumped. There's so many of them that can be companion animals. So I don't want you to think that we're going into the woods and trapping cats and putting them back in the woods. It doesn't work like that. It's an organized effort to contain the population. And I just want you to remember, want you to ask yourself, if a cat came up to your front porch, are you going to take that cat, put it in a cage, take it to the shelter? Probably not. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out, that we're just not throwing wild cats out everywhere. It's a organized effort, and everybody watching, it's a community effort. We need the entire community helping with this. We didn't create this, we're just trying to fix it.
All right, let's let this last lady speak. Okay.
Speaker, my name is Linda Meredith. I moved here 6 years ago from Mississippi and live in Gulf Breeze proper.
Speak into the mic, please. So,
Okay.
thank you.
I've lived in proper for 6 years. I cannot tell you how many small dogs and cats these birds that they want to protect have killed. As far as I know, no feral cats have killed any other cats or small dogs. But I do know for a fact that many small dogs and cats have been picked up in proper, and everyone is tired of it. And there is no organization with these birds. There's nothing we can do except that, maybe put out poison to kill these birds. Because and I have no small dogs or cats, but we should be able to let our small dog out in our own backyard that's fenced without a bird picking it up. So
Bird picking it up?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You're talking about a hawk?
No, 2 great horned owls.
Well, that's
owls.
federal there. That's federally
Yes, sir.
protected.
And owls.
Yeah.
And hawks.
Okay.
And these same birds have also killed the osprey birds. I've seen that driving across.
That's
3 Mile
nature
Bridge.
there. I mean,
Yes,
that's
sir.
that's nothing we're going to have any control over.
But it's not the cats that are killing other animals.
Okay.
It's the birds.
All right.
Thank you.
you. All right. We do have to get on with the public hearings. First public hearing is a proposed ordinance to consider a text amendment to the Santa Rosa County Comprehensive Plan. Is anybody here to speak on that? Seeing none, I'll move to item 2.